Funding for this program was provided by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting.
Norman Kinsey was born in Shreveport, grew up in the middle of the Great Depression, and determined that a college education would be key to his future success. After graduating Byrd High, he scraped enough money together to enroll at LSU in Baton Rouge. But World War II interrupted his studies. He spent 3 years overseas as an administrative officer supporting combat operations in North Africa, Italy, and southern France, and was awarded a Bronze Star for exceptional service. After the war, Norman earned degrees in business administration and law and started working in his father's land and energy business.
My father's greatest business achievement was the founding of Transcontinental Gas Pipeline and 5 other interstate pipeline systems in the 50s. That was when the infrastructure system of our pipelines were built in this country, and he was very much a part of that.
He makes long-range, solid business decisions on a consistent basis. That's what makes him unique.
He always looked at a broad spectrum, always looked beyond the borders of what was right in front of him, and tried to expand the conversation.
This appreciation for the exploration of ideas was passed on by Norman and Peggy, his wife of 65 years, to their children, along with a strong sense of community commitment. Norman's special interest in supporting educational causes coincides with the motto of his beloved Boy Scouts, "Be prepared."
He has a heart for those who are coming behind us, a second generation, and third generation, fourth generations of young people who will be a part of Louisiana for years and years and years. And so he wants to make sure that they are equipped and prepared to do what they need to do for the best of the community and the state.
Norman's wide-ranging philanthropy is matched by his many years of dedicated civic service, providing others the benefits of his leadership and experience.
He's not seeking any glory. He's not seeking anything but the good that comes from the work that he does.
My father was very much a part of the greatest generation. He was very much about doing, building, having your word be your bond. Trust, integrity, those are guiding principles to him and to me and my brothers. And it's very much one of the gifts that we've received from him.
Worthy gifts indeed, among the many Norman Kinsey has bestowed in his long and still productive life. A life celebrated in grand style at his recent birthday bash. The theme, Life in Full Color, a 90-year adventure. Let the adventure continue. Hello, I'm Beth Courtney. Welcome to Louisiana Legends. Today, we have with us a true legend from North Louisiana, oil and gas man, philanthropist, explorer, Norman Kinsey. Mr. Kinsey, welcome to Louisiana Legends.
Thank you, Beth. It's a pleasure to be here.
You have had such an interesting career. Looking back, though, I guess that's a far cry from growing up in Shreveport in the Depression.
I don't dwell on it, but I certainly recall I remember one time that I really got into big trouble. My mother was quite frugal, and she had a composition book that she put down every penny that she spent, literally. For whatever reason, she kept that record, just so she could be sure that she knew what was going on. Well, there was a gang that we had, not a drug gang by any means, but
sort of our gang.
Our gang that used to get together on Saturdays. So the gang was forming up about 9 o'clock in the morning, I guess, or something like that. And I happened to be going through the dining room, and there was her purse, and it was open, and there was a dollar bill. And I said, I think I'll just take that. So I took that dollar and got with the gang, and we went to the little grocery store up at the corner. And we got a watermelon, and then I don't know how many bars of candy.
You could buy a lot for $1 then.
You could really buy a lot for $1. So where to take it? And we took it to one of the gang's garages. That they didn't have a car; they just had a garage behind the house, and so we just had this big feast. And I was the hero, and everybody had a good time. And then we all went to lunch. Our mothers called us, and there we went. And then at noontime, my dad came home, and it had been raining, and there was some overflowed ditches within driving range, and there were a lot of crawfish that were coming up out of their holes. So he took me crawfishing, and we had a great time. And we came back home about dark with a big sack full of crawfish. And my mother was standing as we walked in the house and said, "Norman Jr., are you going to tell your father what you've done, or shall I?" You do it. Well, my father took over from there.
Oh, gosh. Well, ingrained in you early was
and so
honesty.
I just said to myself, well, if taking a dollar bill that's not yours is not a good idea.
Exactly. When you went off to college at LSU,
Oh, yes.
prior to the war, you decided to work your way through.
And, well, as it happened, I was working for the state. I put in 50 hours a month, and I got $35 for that. And I guess it's far enough away from the event that I could tell you that one of my jobs was, as the checks came in, I would call these other kiddos to come get their check and leave 5% of the face of the check in cash with me. And then I would put all of that in an envelope and address it to a game warden in Houma, Louisiana.
Well, how interesting. So you got an insight into a little, corruption in government early on.
That was what they called the deducts. And that was the deduct box that disappeared when Huey died.
In addition to all these nefarious things, you've always been a Boy Scout.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
So you learned some things great. When did you first become a Boy Scout?
On the 7th of January, 1933. I went up to Troop 11's cabin in Columbia Park in Shreveport, and I said, I want to join the Boy Scouts. Nobody recruited me, but I had found out that I had to know the Scout Oath and the Scout Law and tie 9 knots and know the Scout motto and be prepared.
Right.
On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight.
And so that has held you in good stead as well.
Well, I've tried to.
You've tried to adhere to all
that.
of that. Well, you know, you were at LSU briefly, but then, of course, the war started, and you went into the Army Air Corps before you finished.
Well, I was not there briefly. I was there 4 years.
Oh, I see. All right.
I got this job and I made $35 a month less 5%. And I went through business and 1 year of law. But also, I went through 4 years of Reserve Officers Training Corps, and I had a shiny bar that said I was a second lieutenant, and I was 21 years of age. So I was immediately ordered to active duty, and that was in June of 1942. In October, we got on some ships in Hampton Roads. We pulled out, and there were about 2 or 3 other ships from Hampton Road, and we looked out, and we were all starting to see. We didn't know where we were going. Each morning, we'd wake up at sea, and we'd find more ships in the convoy. And a little bit later on, there were warships. There was a battleship, Texas. There was a cruiser, Augusta. 4 days at sea, we were told we were going to Morocco and make an invasion.
Gosh.
Okay, so I was 21 years of age. We arrived in the 9th of November, 1942, and the second day, and then the third day, and we were told we were going to get off. All right. I went over the side, got in a Higgins boat, and went putt-putting. By this time, I didn't land on the beach. I landed in the harbor at Fidala, just outside of Casablanca. Well, first thing I found out was the fellow that I roomed with in Langley Field was a casualty, along with 11 others. They were all in this Higgins boat, and there was about a 5-foot swell, and somehow the engine quit, and the coxswain couldn't get it started, and it went sideways, and it breached.
Oh, gosh.
And everybody went to the bottom. They had all this gear hooked onto them, and they all drowned.
Without any combat or anything,
No.
just, yeah.
After 3 years in the Mediterranean, I moved 15 times all over the Mediterranean, from Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia. I was in Egypt, Palestine, in Italy, all the way up and down in southern France. I was there trying to put all the records together to ship them to some place in Maryland. And I ran across the KIA, Killed in Action. And I counted that I had turned in 125 killed in action reports. By this time I was a captain, and well, it was quite an experience. I had not seen my parents nor even spoken to them in 44 months.
That's amazing, because now we have such instant communication
Yes.
from the battlefronts. And
We had these little V-mails, small little things at one page that you could write them, and they would be delivered back and forth across the ocean, but that's all.
well, that's certainly a maturing experience. So when you come back after the war, you go back and complete your...
In 1947, I went across the stage twice and got 2 degrees.
2 degrees. And then, boy, you went immediately into an exciting field,
Right.
this whole East Texas oil and gas time. It must have
Correct.
been an awfully exciting time.
My father had been able, well, he had been part of a major discovery in East Texas. And so there was a lot of activity, and I immediately immersed myself with him to find out what it was he had been doing. One of the problems that was had by people who had natural gas, methane, all of these people were successful at getting gas production, but they didn't have a really good free market for it. The big and little inch line from Longview to Philadelphia was a 24 and a 20-inch line that was built to carry crude oil to the refineries on the East Coast to avoid all of the tanker sinkings along our East Coast. Well, our group bid, and a group from Houston bid. They were successful in buying the big and little inch. We were sitting there saying, well, I guess we ought to collapse the corporation, take your losses, and go off and do something else. And there was a knock at the door. So this person said, I represent a group of security houses, and we've read this application that you had in your bid, and in it you have a paragraph that said, if we are unsuccessful in this bid, we apply for a permit to build a new line. Well, we really hadn't thought about that very much. And they said, we think that this has value. And if you'll give us half of your stock, we will put up all the funds, all the money that it takes to pursue it to fruition before the Federal Power Commission. We built the line.
You've been successful in business and also certainly in your family life as well, but you're a man who likes to explore new things.
Oh, yes.
Tell us about, you actually went to the North Pole.
Took 30 days. We went to Providenia, which is in Siberia, and went up through the Bering Strait to the Chukchi Peninsula, and then up past Wrangel Island. I never heard of any of these places. But just north of Wrangel Island, we commenced to see the ice packs. And that's where we saw polar bears and that sort of thing. And also, we saw as many as 1,000 walruses in Bering Strait.
Have you been to virtually every continent? Or?
I've been to every continent, all 7.
You've lived in Shreveport, though, all of these years, and have taken all these great adventures out. And you have, I think, imbued your children with that idea of adventure, too, haven't you?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
One of them is, by this time, a world-class hunter. He has taken the top prize for Africa from the International Safari Club, and he's taken elephants and lions and leopards.
Oh, goodness. Now, tell me, because you have all these different interests, do you have any sort of advice for, now to be a legend, you can give us a little advice on how you've remained interested and vibrant all these years. What are some of the characteristics you think?
Well, of course, you have to have the ability to address them, which means that you have to be in a place that the problem comes up. As I look at all of these things, they are not mine. I am just someone who is there trying to maintain them because they are worth maintaining, and then so that people following me can also enjoy them.
You are mature now. Let's see, you had your, 90th birthday, is
Correct.
that right? And I heard that it was an extraordinary event. Tell me something about your birthday celebration.
Well, first, I had it. That was the main thing.
That's right.
People have asked me often, what would you like for your birthday? And my answer is, another birthday. Well, I decided that we would pull the stops out. The champagne was quite unusual. In the center of the dance floor was a draped area that was just sitting there. And during the course of the activities, the drapes dropped, and here was a lovely young lady in a spangled, skin-fitting suit, upside down, hanging by her ankles.
Oh my goodness.
In the middle of a chandelier that was draped with champagne.
Oh my goodness.
So she would reach over upside down and pick up and pour the guests champagne.
Wow. Well, was she an acrobat? Or
Oh yes.
Mm-hmm.
This was a professional, certainly.
Yes. And then it all ended with what? Fireworks?
Yes. And after that happened, well, we had some fireworks that were professionally done. Well, the main thing is I checked the guest register, and there were 352 people who signed the register.
Wow.
More were invited but couldn't be there for one reason or another. And the main thing was the people. Friends from far and near. I had one person, a business associate, that came from San Francisco. I had another fellow that came from Durban, South Africa. The people from all over.
Mr. Kinsey, you have always shown a marked interest in investing in education and concern about education. In fact,
Correct.
Starting Montessori school in Shreveport. Why so? Why do you think it's so important?
I believe that most all of human beings, if they're properly motivated, first they have to have some reason to think that they want to learn, and that's the part of a teacher to encourage children or anybody to learn. In fact, today I'm still taking courses.
What are you taking?
Well, I'm trying to brief myself a little on geology. And geology has changed a lot since I was in school. I mean, we have the tectonic plates discovered and confirmed how our planet operates.
So you're always looking to learn something new, is that
Oh
right?
yeah, sure.
In addition to taking more classes, what do you see in the immediate future for you?
Ooh. Well, people have been urging me to do more with my memoirs. And as you do that, you awaken some memories that, gee whiz, did I do that?
I see. So you might be doing a little looking back as well as looking forward.
Yes. One of the things that I'm sad about is the fact that we have, as a country, tend to overlook the starting or the beginning of our country, and the factors that motivated the first people that put our Constitution and our Declaration of Independence together, and it was not always smooth. There were a lot of pretty rocky spots, and there are various times in our history that, when Thomas Jefferson got to be the president, there was a lot of discussion there. Well, he was accepted, and we've never had any revolutions as we see in the Middle East today. When we change the head of state. In fact, one of the moments that I can remember in my life My wife and I were invited to the inauguration when Nixon and Johnson passed, one to the other. She and I were sitting about 75 feet away when Earl Warren stood there, and here is Nixon and here is Johnson. And they held their hands up and made a very short speech, an oath. And with that, Johnson folded and left out of the back of the seating and disappeared. And this next man came in, Nixon, and started leading our country. And I thought to myself, that's the most awesome power in the world that passed from one human to another human with just a few words. And where on the face of the earth can you find that means as much as that anywhere?
Remarkable
to
be there.
Very much so.
I'm so enjoyed listening to you today, and thank you for joining us on Louisiana Legends, and it's been a pleasure to visit with you.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you.
Very much, Beth.
I hope you'll join us again for another edition of Louisiana Legends. I'm Beth Courtney.
For a copy of this program, call 1-800-973-7246 or go online to www.lpb.org. Funding for this program was provided by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting.